This is episode 57 of Fans Talk TNA. My name is Nick, and we are here to recap and review the December 2nd episode of Impact Wrestling. Week in and week out, we're constantly supported by our squared circle of trust, our Patreon subscribers. If you like what we're doing, you can join them by chipping in just $1 a month over on Patreon. You can help us cover the costs of recording, hosting, and distributing our episodes. You will get the entire archive for this series, as well as others from the Fans Talk family, and some other fun perks beside, depending on how much you choose to donate. Head on over to fanstalktna.com right now and find out more. Let's get right into this week on Impact, the round of 16. That got settled all in one go, and to be honest, I'm rather disappointed with the way things turned out. None of the matches were bad. Let's get that out of the way right now. There was not a bad match on this card. Every match was decent at the least. It's the results that I had to take issue with. And let's get into that individually. Opening up the night, we had EC3 versus DJZ. And in a result that surprised absolutely no one, EC3 is still undefeated. DJZ put up a pretty good fight, and I highly enjoyed this match. I think DJZ showed us a little bit of fire that we haven't seen out of him at this sort of level. But, you know, the odds are stacked against him. The cards weren't in his favor. We also had Bram versus Davey Richards. Davey Richards, I guess in terms of kayfabe, pulled out the upset victory, but I don't think anybody was really surprised by this one either. As much as they like to build Bram up as this monster figure, nobody's really taken him seriously since that falling out with Magnus. It seems like they've tried to keep building him back up, but he keeps getting cut down. When Devon was around briefly, Devon got one over on him, and that just kept continuing. He's never really gotten the ball rolling again, and that's, for a guy as obviously talented as he is, at least as far as wrestling goes, it's kind of disappointing. With him as a person, not so much, but I don't know. We're here to judge him on his wrestling and nothing else, really. So, let's move on. In Block B, we had Mahabali Shera versus Eli Drake. Excuse me. I don't know. I think it was forecast pretty heavily that Shera would be going on to advance, and I'm not disappointed by the result. I do think it would have been pretty interesting to have Eli Drake go over, but you know, moving forward, that really wouldn't make as much sense, I don't think. So, overall, I can't complain about that. We also got Tigre Uno versus Gail Kim, and this is one of the matches that I'm kind of upset by, because Tigre Uno won. And, I don't know, I'm glad that the Knockouts got a chance to take part in this tournament to begin with, but it was a foregone conclusion that 2 Knockouts were going to advance to this round. There is absolutely no way that could have gotten screwed up, that we wouldn't have gotten women advancing. In the round where it really is a toss-up whether you would get a knockout advancing forward to the next round, that didn't happen. Let's go ahead and spoil the Kong match, but both knockouts lose in essentially the first round. And that sucks. I don't understand the point of it otherwise, unless TNA needed bodies. And even if that was the case, you could have just rounded up 32 guys. Kong, I'm not really that broken up about her losing. I think it sucks. But the way that they told that story against a guy like Jesse Goddard, who is an obvious heel, who will go to any lengths to win, the way he beat Kong makes sense. He got his ass handed to him on a silver platter, but he took advantage of a misstep by Kong and cheated to win. Sucks for Kong, but storytelling-wise, that makes sense. Tigre Uno versus Gail Kim. There is no reality where that should be the case, with the circumstances as they are now. Tigre Uno is... he's not new in Impact, but compared to Gail Kim, he practically is. He's the X Division champion, but she's also the Knockouts champion. She, at one point, held the longest reign, and she was the first ever. Tigre Uno is not the person that should have beat Gail Kim, in my estimation. If Gail Kim had won, she would have moved on to EC3, and that would have been a perfect way for her to get eliminated, because EC3 not only is the kind of guy that Jesse Goddard is, he will do anything to win, but he's also got Tyrus there on the outside to throw up another additional obstacle for Gail Kim. This, again, This is nothing against Tigre Uno. I enjoy the guy's work as a wrestler, and if it was another X Division athlete or if it was another guy, maybe I still wouldn't like him going on, but this would be a little more palatable. As it stands now, it just feels like Knockouts being involved in this thing at all is just a hollow gesture by TNA. And with somebody as obviously talented as Gail Kim or Awesome Kong, that sucks. It could probably go on for another 10-15 minutes on just this topic alone, but in the interest of brevity and moving things along, I'll leave it there. Eric Young versus Kenny King. No problem with this at all. Frankly, I'm surprised Kenny King made it as far as he did, to be honest. And not a knock against the man, it's just, as Eli Drake would say, a fact of life. He's no longer an active competitor for TNA, so yeah, I figured against somebody like Eric Young, it was a foregone conclusion he wasn't going to advance. And I think they told a pretty good story in determining that. We already talked about the one match in Block D, Jesse Goddard versus Awesome Kong, but Bobby Roode versus Matt Hardy. This was maybe my match of the night. Just in terms of storytelling and wrestling, I really think this was the best match on the card. Matt Hardy won, which again should surprise no one. I don't really have a problem with it. Bobby Roode is King of the Mountain Champion. He doesn't need to advance. So yeah, all around I'm pretty satisfied with how that went. And that leaves us with our main event of Lashley versus Drew Galloway. Lashley won, and I don't like that. This tournament was a perfect way for Drew Galloway to get that shot that he got screwed out of. I guess screwed is the wrong way to put it, but, he deserves a singles match, a singles opportunity at that championship, and a triple threat obviously is not that. Lashley's already held the belt twice. I don't see why he's moving forward in this tournament and Drew Galloway's not. Other than maybe it's part of TNA's relationship with Bellator. The fact that I'm really not sure how that contract is situated, whether Lashley has one or two contracts, one with each Bellator and TNA, or if Bellator has that much influence backstage that they can say, okay, Lashley's on a roll here in Bellator, he cannot lose that low in the tournament, so you need to push him on to at least the Final Four or something. I don't know. But it for lack of a better word, it stinks. I think Drew Galloway can do so much more with an opportunity like that, and Lashley just doesn't need it. The dude's built. He has all kinds of credibility. He doesn't need that win. But he got it, so round of 16's over. We move on to the round of 8. And that will be, in Block A, you've got EC3 versus Davey Richards, which is going to be an excellent match, I believe. Davey Richards, hell of an athlete. EC3, probably the best character going right now in TNA. And I have no doubt that they're going to tell a hell of a story with that one. I think it's a foregone conclusion, though, that Davey Richards will not win that match. I'm forecasting EC3 to go all the way. Last week, I thought maybe he would wind up getting disqualified and thrown out of the tournament somehow so that Drew Galloway could advance, but obviously that's not happening. So EC3 is going all the way to the final match, I feel. In Block B, we've got Lashley versus Mahabali Shera. This one has the potential to be next week's main event, I feel. It's just like Lashley versus Galloway this week. It's two bulls just locking horns. And I think we're going to get an entertaining power versus power match. The one downside I feel could potentially impact how good this match is just how maybe green Shera is. He's done well enough for himself thus far, and I think his match against Aiden O'Shea kind of forecast how this match can go. And Shera did pretty well against O'Shea, but, there's always that question of whether he's gotten good enough to kind of step up to Lashley's level and have a match at that level. I guess we'll see next week. I'm hoping for good things. In Block C, we're going to have Tigre Uno versus Eric Young. Another foregone conclusion that this is as far as Tigre Uno is going. There's no way Eric Young is being derailed by the X Division champion, which is a good thing in my opinion. I think the faster we start getting activity in other divisions, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And in Block D, we've got Jesse Goddard versus Matt Hardy. I forecast Jesse losing last week. There is no way in hell he goes on this week. Matt Hardy's been on one hell of a roll, and I firmly believe that he's going to be meeting EC3 in the final match. Jesse is going to put on a hell of an effort. I think he's going to tell a good story. I think he's going to be entertaining to watch, but I think he is going to be looking up at the lights while Matt Hardy moves on. That is it for this week's Impact, and really this podcast wouldn't be happening without y'all's support, especially in weeks like this where, I don't know, this week's show left kind of a bad taste in my mouth for a couple different reasons, and I kind of didn't want to talk about it because I was afraid that it would just be me complaining about how short-sighted or misguided TNA's storytelling went for things like that. But just knowing that our supporters, our squared circle of trust is out there, you know, I want to be able to put on this show for you guys, and all of us here in the Fans Talk podcast family feel the same. Without y'all, this really would not be happening. If you thought that any of my complaining or my recap and review had any merit to it and you want to hear more of that same sort of discourse, you can help us keep things running, get a bunch of fun perks in the process, and you can find out all about that by heading over to fanstalktna.com. You can click on that big green button up top, and by just pledging $1 or more a month, you can get in on all that good stuff. This is a kind of salty Nick. I will be back next week, hopefully less salty, and I hope you guys will be as well. Take care, y'all.
Now let's go.
Fans Talk TNA is part of the Fans Talk podcast family and can be found at fanstalktna.com. The Fans Talk podcast family is a subsidiary of Tigar Creative, LLC.